And what I've come away with as a message from that was, if and the thing is, the amount of water, the fresh water that's in Antarctica, is basically 70% of the entirety of the fresh water on Earth.
Wow.
So we are using, as a human species, that just 30%.
Right.
And 70% of it is living in Antarctica.
Amazing.
And what I came away with is that these 3,000 people that are living in Antarctica day in, day out, these team of scientists from all around the world, are managing those 70% much better than we as 8 billion people are doing to that 30%. And there's a lot of us to learn from these teams and from these people there on how we can manage our resources better.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that Antarctic Treaty and the measures that are being implemented there are probably it shows the best, our best face, our best version of humanity in terms of reserving the environment and reserving the resources for the future. And there's a lot for us to learn.
Welcome back to KU Pulse, the podcast. My name is Margaret Kinsella, and I'm your host for today. In our previous episode, we discussed the Emirates Polar Program, the KU Polar Research Center, and the Emirates 2024 accession to the Antarctic Treaty. Further on to that, we have two very special guests with us today, Dr. Ramy Elmarry from the Earth Sciences Department here at Khalifa University, and PhD student Omar Aldhanhani. Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome, Maggie. It's a pleasure being back at the KU Pulse.
Thank you. We're very excited to have you with us today because you've just returned from the very first mainland Antarctic expedition of the United Arab Emirates. I think you've been back about 3 weeks now. Is that right?
Yeah, about that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all very excited to hear about all the details, but let's start at the beginning. So if you can give us a little bit of background on the preparation that goes into something like this, a trip like this, from physical preparation to the materials preparation and onward.
So obviously, I think it really starts with the agreement that the UAE signed with the NCPOR, the National Center for Oceanic and Polar Research in India. During a sort of high-level visit to India by the EPP and members of the Polar Research Center, a number of projects were discussed. And one of the projects that the NCPOR guys really liked was the project that we were going to which is to look at analog sites for Mars in Antarctica. Because basically, Antarctica is the next best thing if you want to look at Mars. Because it's cold, it's dry, and it's the closest we'll get as an environment on Earth to studying Mars. And so the NCPOR guys really liked that project and said, yeah, let's start collaborating with this as sort of a springboard to future collaborations. And so this is where it really started. And that was like 5 or 6 months ago. Okay. And from that point on, it was really, really fast and hectic, because usually you need around a year to get everything prepped up for an Antarctic fieldwork. So we had to tackle some of these logistical constraints within that very short period. One of the key things first was to actually get the Antarctic permit. And so that is something people don't really realize, is a lot of work goes into prepping a fieldwork. So these 2 or 3 weeks that you end up there's usually a few months of prep work and getting ready and so forth. One of the first things was to actually get a permit through the government of India, basically, because all these countries are compliant with the Antarctic Treaty that has certain restraints and restrictions on the type of work you can do, what sort of samples you can collect, what are you going to do there. No one can mine, for instance, Antarctica. No one can claim all ownership to any particular ground and so forth. And so you have to get a permit and be very clear about the activities that you're going to undergo there.
So lots of detail.
Exactly. So that took a few months to get the permit. But meanwhile, we had to do all the prep work, Omar and me as well, in terms of making sure that all the gear was ready, making sure that we are ready physically for the challenges, the environmental challenges that the Antarctica is going to pose. It's really cold, it gets really dry, it can be very windy. And so we needed to make sure that the gear was there and that we were physically ready and fit to tackle that trip.
What kind of fitness regimen goes into preparing for something like that?
Generally, you need to do a lot of hiking, a lot of exercise, make sure you're fine at high altitudes. Although, generally speaking, where we were, it wasn't really that. But again, you need to be really physically fit because you're kind of on your own there. There's not a hospital, or there's a doctor if something happens. But everyone is expected to be physically fit for such expeditions.
You need to be able to carry yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Take care of yourself. And I assume that the journey there is not so easy either. Going to the Antarctic has always been one of my dreams. Till a friend recently told me about the passage, the Drake Passage, and how treacherous that can be. I know I've heard some interesting stories about what that can do to someone. Did you experience anything like this? Could you tell us a little bit about your journey?
So actually, our first prep work started off by actually trying to get the duty travel clearance here at KU. And that's a really fun story because when you're trying to do that duty travel request, you need to specify that you're traveling somewhere to a certain country. And the first thing basically was, no. Yeah, there's no Antarctica as a country in the list of countries. And you need to have that DTR in order to actually get all the expenses, everything sorted out.
Funny.
And so we had to work this out with HR and with the travel office. And so it was decided, you should write South Africa because we were going to stop by South Africa anyway. Our sort of gateway to Antarctica was South Africa. And so that's how that was kind of the first that was the first thing that we had to tackle really with these sort of things.
These are things you don't even think of.
Yeah, there's no
because
commercial.
There's no precedent for this.
Obviously, Antarctica is not a country. There are no commercial airlines going to Antarctica.
Right.
It's all private endeavors, exactly, or expeditions. And you have generally 3 to 4 important gateways to get to Antarctica based on where you're going. Okay. So you could go from Argentina, you could go from South Africa, or you could go from Australia or New Zealand. So basically, just the gateways. And so in our case, we had to travel to South Africa, spend a few days there, and then take a sort of a private flight that has been arranged by NCPOR to all members of the Indian expedition. Okay. That flight took how long? I think 5-6 hours
and a half.
Yeah.
From South Africa.
Yeah, and we still had a transit, so we had to stop first somewhere in Antarctica where a Belgian team needed to go down. Yes. I recall. Yeah. And so that was our first experience with Antarctica.
Flew.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There was no Drake Passage for you.
No. It depends. So India has 2 research stations. I'll get to that later. And so they have a Bharati station and a Metri station. And Bharati station is on the coast. So most of the Antarctic stations that are on the coast, you get to go there by boat. Okay. And I'll be honest, I probably would have loved that experience. I mean, that's sort of a quintessential thing.
I would like to have a boat experience. It would be interesting.
The boat would be great.
Yeah, I feel it's a quintessential part of the Antarctic experience is to be on a boat for a week or 2, watch the seals and the whales and the penguins. But we had to fly because we were further inland. And so first off, actually, we dropped somewhere to drop a Belgian team. And that was actually our first encounter with Antarctica. And in fact, it was probably for the best because all of our work was in an ice-free area. And as you'll see with the videos we're going to share up afterwards, people can be skeptical. You're in Antarctica and there's no ice at all. And I do talk about that. But the point is that first area where we landed was obviously full of ice. It was just on the ice shelf, I think. The ice sheet. It was on the ice sheet. And so that was an amazing view. I recall just going down and see.
When you first stepped on land in Antarctica, how did that feel for you, Omar?
For me, I felt unreal maybe for the few minutes. Like when you step off the aircraft and you see like the view, it's really calm. And it's like calm at the level you cannot even hear the voice of nature's calmness. No birds chirping, no water gurgle.
Nothing grows there.
No, it's just completely quiet. And yes, like the first like moments we get down and we took some pictures and also take pictures with the flag, the KU flag.
yeah.
Yeah.
Moment of pride.
Of course.
I would
Yeah.
imagine.
Yes.
And you, Ramy?
Yeah, it was funny because you recall the plane had landed and we were really dying to go. And they were saying,
Yeah.
no, you have
Like,
to
"Let
wait.
us
No,
off
you
the
have to wait. So
plane."
you have to go like through some safety things.
Yeah.
They had first the Belgian team had to go. They made sure like they have the ladder and everything in place, and then you have to put all your gear on. That's
Yes.
standard
Yes.
practice, and then you have to be very careful. It might be very slippery because
Yeah.
the
Oh,
blue
yeah,
ice
yeah.
can be
Yes.
really slippery. And
Yeah.
again, you don't want to start off the the trip
No, with an
with
injury.
with a bad injury.
Yeah.
And so once they told us, now you can go. It was like, it was 5-10 long minutes. I said, okay, yeah, finally. And then we go and it's just an amazing experience again. Everything around you
sounds
is
fantastic.
white, quiet, serene.
And so clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was just a beautiful experience. But again, there was the stressful part of getting there because you never really know. You can't be sure if you're going to make the trip at any given time, because that was part of it. Like, it didn't happen to us. We were quite fortunate, but members of the expedition before us, because there were like certain intervals, had to wait for a few days in South Africa because of weather conditions, and so basically, because you're not landing, there's no, again, airport in Antarctica.
Right,
So
yes.
basically there are a bunch of snow vehicles that dig a route, just a line on the ice,
Just to land
for
the plane.
for planes to land during the spring and summer. And so if the visibility is just out by a little bit, no one is going to take that risk.
Right.
Because the pilots generally have to completely rely on themselves. There is no airport, there is no watchtower. And so if the visibility is a little bit down, it can be very difficult for the pilot to distinguish the horizon from the ice, from the surface.
Okay.
And so they won't land and they won't take off, first
Right.
off, if the weather is not ideal. And sometimes you can go kind of midway, 3-4 hours, and you'll be almost going to land, and they'll say, no, we have to
Gotta
go back. And
Wouldn't that be
so
heartbreaking?
and so you stay on the plane with your normal attire, and only when they confirm that we're landing in Antarctica, then you have to put in all your Antarctic gear, not before. But that's actually, it's an amazing thing, because it suddenly dawns on you, wow, okay, this is happening, because otherwise you're just staying there with your clothes.
And you don't wanna
you're
get
not
your
sure,
hopes up.
and you don't want to get your hopes up, because
It could
you
just
might
fall
go back
apart.
to Cape Town in a few hours. And it's
What
only
if that
then.
had happened?
Well,
Would you just have attempted a different day?
exactly. So we would have come back and would probably waited for a couple
Okay.
more days.
It's the season, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's part of it. That's part of the challenge. But he said, no, okay, now you put in the gear and now you switch on. Okay, this is kind of happening.
Did you cheer?
No, I think we were. No, we were really sort of I think we were sort of in a very strict science mode.
Okay.
Yeah, now we're gonna wear the stuff, and that's fine. Yeah.
Fair.
But it really dawned on us when we actually set foot. It's only then that all of the stress of getting everything prepared and keeping your emotions in check and everything, once you set foot there, everything just goes away and said, wow, what have we just achieved?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And something else, it's as he mentioned, it's really traditional, you can say, runaway.
Yeah.
No airport, no radar station, no security check, no any basement infrastructure. And I think this has to be aligned with the Antarctic Treaty protocols,
Yeah.
because they need to protect the continent with the low potential of human footprint.
Right. It's really strictly for scientific research that you can go, right?
Yes.
No commercialization, no.
Well, there's some tourism now.
I guess
Yeah.
some expeditions.
Yeah. Actually, even where we were, we found out there was a hotel that's kind
Really?
of set up. Yeah,
Resort,
yeah. So there's a resort, very limited.
there's
Like half a dozen rooms. Yeah, but I think it's around $100K now, dollars.
there's not
Yeah,
room for
just
me.
to
That's not
Yeah.
going to happen.
yeah. It's open for I would say comfortable rich tourists right now. Yeah.
That
But
is
again,
also not
even they have to obviously abide by everything, the
Of
Antarctic
course, yeah.
Treaty, all the hotels, all that stuff. But it's a growing industry now. But it still remains purely scientific
course,
people that get to go to Antarctica.
So
Just
then
good.
you're now on the ground. You're with the Indian team, correct? And NCPOR, and you are staying at their station there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What was the station like? What were you equipped with? Everything you needed? Because I've heard some stories too about differences in cuisine and how complicated that can be when you're there for a few weeks. But
Yeah, luckily we're accustomed to the Indian cuisine here
yeah,
in
fair
the
enough.
UAE.
Here you
So
would be.
yeah, they had like biryani and paratha bread and
Yes.
all
So
that
you were
really good
well
stuff.
fed.
Yeah,
You were
we're
well fed.
yeah. And so the station, the Metri station where we were, Metri means friendship in Indian actually, in Hindi, and it's a station that's been there since the 1980s, so it's well established. Although it's the one they would refer to as the classical sort of experience of Antarctica, because
is that?
because Bharati station is much young, much newer, with more modernized facilities, and so they refer to Metri as the one with the more classical feeling of Antarctica. So it's an old station. It's been there for nearly 30-40 years,
Right.
and it has all the essential things, albeit not the super luxurious. And again, I mean this in a relative sense, obviously,
So
because obviously it's not a five-star resort.
Camping, it's not glamping.
Exactly. Yes. And so it's you have that station laid out primarily for the winter team. And so the expedition is going to usually be divided between you distinguish the winter team, the guys who tend to stay there during the winter.
Yeah.
And then you've got the summer expedition, the people that actually come to carry out limited time research during the summer. And so the winter team gets to stay in the station.
Okay.
And they've repurposed some of the, I think what do you call them? These huge metal boxes to carry stuff, freight. Yeah, like these freight boxes.
Okay.
And so some of them have been repurposed to be the summer lodging for the summer people that get to come during the summer. And so we were staying there, but obviously we had the meals and the meetings and everything in the main station. And so we had to be, I think, first briefed about some of this major architecture, but also about the logistics and where we would sleep and everything, and how we would relieve ourselves. There was a very, very strict
Some housekeeping.
and there was a very strict procedure you had to go through. We don't need to go through that.
No,
The less we said, the better.
But
But obviously, there was very strict regulations because everything needs to be abiding by the treaty in terms of waste management, sustainability as well. Everything is sustainable by definition. You need to be very careful about how the waste is managed, how the water is being managed. Not just how much water you use, but how that water also is going to be actually managed and recycled. And so that was sort of a very unique experience. Yeah,
I bet.
but the food though was actually really pleasant.
Great,
I mean,
yeah.
they had
that's
really
good.
dedicated
Chefs.
chefs, and we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Imagine
So
being a chef in the Antarctic.
yeah.
What's your job? I'm an Antarctic chef.
It's same. he have the experience. He would still would have this great experience even if it was from the logistic team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
because even like when I was in contact with some of these crew colleagues of the logistic team, and I like when they share with me the photos and videos, also during the winter, it's really something like another world.
Yeah.
Because in the summer, like the whole period, it's like continuous daylight. Unlike in the winter, it's like continuous
Daylight.
night. Yeah.
Oh, continuous night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went, and that's part of the appeal of going in the summer, that you get what we call a polar day. So the sun actually doesn't set. In fact, the last time the sun had set was in January. No, was it in November?
November.
Was it in November? And it wasn't going to rise again till the 28th of January. Yeah.
Do you find that messed with your circadian rhythm?
It does. It does. And so one of the things that you have to actually manage really well is your living and sleeping routine, because it is very easy to ruin that up, and that could be a problem. So you have to be very strict about the time you go to sleep, the time you wake up. Obviously, we're in fieldwork and we have to abide by a certain routine, but even more so, if you don't have any night, it becomes hard. And so we had to put stuff on the windows and stuff just to block the sunlight. And so we would go to bed what time? Like 10, I think 10:30, and then we would wake up around 6. And you had to do this. And once you restrict yourself to a very strict schedule, your circadian cycle manages it well. Yes. But imagine, like, for the winter team, it's sort of they get the other way, which is mostly depressing, where it's just continuous night. But you get to see auroras, so I think maybe that's something.
Okay. Having said that, why don't we get into the research? Tell us what you were looking for, kind of what a typical day looked like, what you found, anything interesting that you can share.
So for the actual research, people ask again, why would you pick that area, this Schirmacher Oasis area? It is an ice-free area, and these are very rare in Antarctica because ice covers around 98% of Antarctica. And Antarctica was part of this huge Gondwana, what we call this Gondwana supercontinent, where you had Africa, Antarctica, South America, India, Australia. All of them were just one big continent in around 180 million years ago. And so when you want to study the geology of Antarctica in general, you want to look at the rocks, and we're geologists, that's what we want to do. And so it doesn't help that 98% of the continent is covered by ice. Many places it's more than a kilometer thick. And so these 2% areas that are ice-free are really precious, not just for us, but for all sorts of scientists who do all sort of work. They really cherish these areas. So we wanted to go to that area because it was ice-free. It gave us a window to the actual rocks that are there. And that particular environment in Schirmacher Oasis was, as I said, I talked about analog sites for Mars, was an area that would allow us to look at environments on Mars billions of years ago that probably would have had a very similar geological history, where it used to be covered by ice, and at a certain time of transient warmth, it no longer was. But then you had traces of all that ice in this ice-free area. You have what we call periglacial modification, how the ground actually responds to differences in temperature and to the presence and disappearance of ice. How all these sort of lakes, that water that melts creates a number of enclosed lakes. Many of them dry out, and you get salt depositions because of these lakes that are drying out as well. So the entire sort of assemblage of features, really, these lakes, the ice-free areas, the rocks, the soil, all of that as an analog is really good for us to look at it in terms of understanding what happened on Mars. And so that was the reason we went there. But obviously, what we're doing, we're studying Antarctica. We're studying how the climate changed on Earth itself, and we're studying the geological history of that area. And so that helps us as well in terms of understanding how the climate changed on Earth. And we use that as well to better understand Mars. So I look at it from the perspective of a planetary scientist, and I do Earth sciences and climate science just from that planetary perspective. Others may do it the other way around, and so forth.
Because the last time I saw you was at the open day, and you put a Mars rock in my hand. And today you've brought me an Antarctic rock.
Arguably not. It's not less spectacular.
Well,
these
I'm
are actually now you get to. This is a rock from Antarctica.
Look at that.
And mainly rocks in Antarctica are very old. And so that rock is we probably need to date it accurately, but based on the published work for this area, this is probably around 1 billion years old. So 1 and 9 zeros.
That's incredible.
Yeah. But we're geologists.
just
We're
gonna
fine. We're used
put it
to
down
these
now.
numbers. Yeah. And so these are the types of rocks that have been subjected to intense heat and
Yeah.
pressure.
Right.
Well, you might imagine a rock that's been billions of years old has
course.
probably been subjected, has seen so many things.
Yeah.
And so
If only you
these
could
are the
tell.
types of rocks that we look at
Yep.
in order to study not just the geologic history of Antarctica, but the history of plate tectonics, how we link these particular rocks to very similar rocks in Africa and Australia and South America and so forth. But for our research interests, we were primarily focused on documenting these sites well with a drone. You'll later see in our TikTok videos all the beautiful drone footage. So we wanted to document the sites from a perspective of sort of a remote sensing, because we're looking at satellite data from
Right.
Mars. And so we want that data from sort of a bird's eye, let's say. And so we use these drone images for that purpose. But we also collected samples. So we went to many of these lakes. We collected particularly the soil samples themselves, to better understand the chemistry of these soils and understand how they develop the features that are of interest to us.
So the information that you collect from this, you said it aligns very closely with the climate on Mars. So is this intended to be for future Mars exploration? Is that the reason behind it?
In part, yes, but it's also a part of us understanding the geological history of Mars, because Mars has gone a very interesting geological evolution where around 3 billion years ago, it was very Earth-like. So it had oceans, it had rivers, it had lakes, might have had life either.
Right.
But then the climate changed,
Yes.
and it became that really cold and dry planet. Partly we know that this happened because the planet's kind of cooled down. It is much smaller than Earth. And so its interior stopped emitting enough heat for it to sort of charge all its geology and make it active. But also because Mars is sort of giving us sort of a glimpse in a much more simplified manner, because there's obviously no human involvement at all
Right.
in that process. So by understanding how the climate changed on Mars, gives us at least a glimpse into a better understanding how the climate would change on Earth. Because you get to look at this somewhat simplified system without any human interference at all, without biology generally. And so better understanding the climate change on Mars is, I would say, very crucial to us in predicting how the climate will change on Earth, and how, by extension, will it affect us.
Right. And how we can prepare for that.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your work with the NCPOR India team. You're working with them closely on the ground, I assume. How does that work? And how does that contribute to science diplomacy?
So, as in any other international expedition, there's a lot of teamwork that gets that is involved. And in terms of our day-to-day, well, the first thing that we had to do always when we kind of woke up was, you had breakfast, but then you had that briefing where everyone in the station needed to discuss the activities of the day with the station manager. And so all the teams talk about what they're going to do. And obviously, there's a big team there, a lot of experts in a variety of fields. And so you had biologists, you had chemists, you had us, you had people from the Geological Survey of India doing surveys for the surrounding area. And so all of these teams need to work in sort of the synergy together. Because we have limited resources, for example, in terms of the vehicles that need to move these people around, because some of the areas are accessible by foot. In others, you need some dedicated snow vehicles to get to more remote areas. And so that was part of the discussion. And obviously I think it was really interesting to the guys there, because we were bringing a completely different angle. We were like the sort of outsiders, kind of, in a sense. Like, mostly everyone there is from the continent of India, the subcontinent of India, and we were like the the whimsical, musical internationals with our different eating habits and so forth. But it was very collegial, and I think the thing that really touched us was the hospitality that we had there.
Nice.
We everything was done in a way that was as comfortable to us as possible. They were very generous in terms of giving us sometimes the priority in terms of the equipment or the things that we needed to do. I mean, sometimes there was a time when they even allowed us to use a helicopter.
Yes.
To actually, the helicopter had just arrived because it had to come through a ship.
Right.
And it was the last few days of our expedition. And there was just one side that we couldn't get to at this time because there's just so much meltwater and it's very remote.
Yeah.
And said the helicopter had just arrived. Said, why don't you just, how about we just use this for this side?
Helicopter.
Yeah, take the helicopter. Said, oh, wow. So we got to go on a helicopter for the first time as well.
International cooperation.
Check, yeah. And so I think this particular fieldwork, I think we left a really good positive impression.
Yeah.
I would like to hope so. And equally as well, we were really took back by the generosity of all the people involved there at Metri Station, NCPOR, who helped us as well with a lot of the logistics. And so we're hoping that this is not the end, but it is the start of more collaborations. In fact, I think Omar, I think you talked with some people who've done some seismology there.
Yes.
There is a chance to do some upcoming work
Yes,
together, and
So maybe another
some of the team or the research teams there were working on the seismology, which is part of my PhD thesis.
Okay.
So I remember that we collaborated on tackling one issue regarding doing some analysis, and we were maybe spend some time to look to some softwares, and we found something and we shared some ideas and insights that helped him and also helped me in part of my
real
PhD thesis. Yes.
That's special.
Yeah.
So do you find that you both learn something from the different ways that you operate on the ground in the field?
Sure. Yeah. It was, and we are in contact till today
So
to have
lifetime
updates. Yes.
Long-term friendships.
yeah, I think we've set up some really good follow-up work. For
Great.
instance, we might work together to set up a few sensors and things to monitor the, let's say, the soil temperature and a bunch of other things in a lot of locations that we studied all year long. I think that could be beneficial for both us and them.
Absolutely.
And so, we'll be working on things together. We just submitted an abstract to International Meeting EGU as well for this work.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Along with our Indian collaborators.
Very
So it's already showing that it's going to be really productive and fruitful.
Amazing. So is there anything from the research that you can share with us that you've discovered? Anything new, anything exciting? What was most surprising?
Well, we still have to analyze the rocks and do all the scientific analysis. And our scientists,
Right, you've
we
only
can't.
got 3
We
weeks.
have to be
Can't
very
rush
sure
you.
about our results. But the prime objective was to actually look at this site and answer at least that first question: is that an analog site for Mars? Does it actually have all the characteristics we're looking for?
Yep.
And the answer is yes.
Okay.
And I think that's part of what we will hopefully talk about in the upcoming international conferences, because most of the work that has been done in Antarctica as analog sites for Antarctica has been looking at a completely different area called the dry valleys. But we are looking at a site that has seldom been looked at for the purpose of planetary analog work. And so we think this is going to be a very interesting site that might excite other people to go afterwards. So
Wow, very cool.
So we'll see. Yeah.
Can't wait. Typically, as scientists, you work in a laboratory setting. How is this different working in the field? How has it changed your views as scientists?
Well, we're geologists, so we do field work.
Yeah, you do.
It's part of what we do is we actually do a lot of field work, and we don't get to spend a lot of time in the office. It's either the labs
Well,
or
that's more fun.
or the field, which is quite a good active lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I think what was what was really unique for at least this field work was again the atmospheric conditions, the climate, the actual climate, and sort of the whole experience in terms of being completely secluded and having to work very closely with a very tight group of people. At sort of a particular environment you're not used to at all. Even like the sort of life forms that we have encountered there. I mean, it was quite strange not having to see any birds. In fact, there was just one particular. There was one particular bird species, the squaw.
I think
there was like only 2 or 3 of them. So
I saw you, Ramy, say hi to the bird at one point.
Yeah, we didn't give him a name because we would always call him Jessim. So like, let's just call him Jessim. So So because it was I think it was the same bird that just followed us every day we were going to really people work.
Maybe he'll be there when you go back next.
And his female Hassa.
And
yes. Every time when we walk through there's some routes that we are going, and the
nest
is along the road, and every time when we come and the female starts screaming.
Because they have to be very protected. And one of the things that really was striking, and I talk in terms of just again understanding how much in terms of sustainability and respect for the environment goes into this, that the female bird had her nest right on the road. So there is sort of a road where the tractors, these snow vehicles, have to plow sort of a road for us to use in the summer.
Right.
And as it happened, the nest was just on the side of the road. So every time everyone was going, the birds would shout on whoever was going.
And you can't interfere or move it.
Exactly. And I talked with I was sort of joking with someone from the NCPOR guys when we came back after a few days. I said, it's quite weird that the bird has picked that side just on the side of the road. And the guy was really serious. He said, actually, it's our fault that we dug the road to her next, because they go to the same place every year. It's the same place. So everyone in the station kind of knows that this at least is the side, and they made sort of the mistake of digging a little bit closer to the nest, and so they felt really guilty about it.
It's nice that was taken so seriously.
But obviously, all sorts in terms of environmental sustainability measures. I think that was really a sort of an eye opener to us on how much goes into this in terms of respecting the treaties and making sure all of these resources are available for the future scientists and future people are going to use it. And what I've come away with as a message from that was, and the thing is, the amount of water, the fresh water that's in Antarctica is basically 70% of the entirety of the fresh water on Earth.
Wow.
So we are using, as a human species, that just 30%.
Right.
And 70% of it is living in Antarctica.
Amazing.
And what I came away with is that these 3,000 people that are living in Antarctica day in, day out, these team of scientists from all around the world, are managing those 70% much better than we as 8 billion people are doing to that 30%. And there's a lot of us to learn from these teams and from these people there on how we can manage our resources better.
Right.
And I think that Antarctic Treaty and the measures that are being implemented there are probably it shows the best our best face, our best version of humanity in terms of reserving the environment and reserving the resources for the future. And there's a lot for us to learn from that.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe we'd take a few lessons away from that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Omar, as a PhD student, you've gotten to experience something that not many students get to experience. Absolutely. What's your message to other students who might be considering something like this?
Actually, first I need to say I'm so grateful and accountable for this experience, and I feel grateful because I had this opportunity to represent the Khalifa University, the Emirates Polar Program, and also the UAE, in a place that's where the science is globally relevant, and also and accountable, because the polar science is not just an academic achievement. It's like evidence that feed to decision that could support climate risk, adaptation, and long-term sustainability. So, like, as a responsibility, I would say, like, this reminded me by one, like, climatologist or earth scientist. He said once that I always carry a blue marble in my pocket. That's the home planet. And which reminding me that we are no longer a small planet or we are no longer a small world in a big planet, but we have become now a big world in a small planet, so small such that I can have it in my pocket. So it's really a great responsibility that we should take care about serving our entire system.
Do you feel that this is a gift to your education, and that this is exceptional, an exceptional experience for you to have learned so much?
Absolutely.
And so would you recommend this to other students as a form of education?
For sure.
Going on a trip like this?
Yes, for sure, I would recommend them. It's really extremely unique experience. I have learned much from Dr. Ramy, and you should go with expert.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you should go like with experts, so you can learn much about like the periglacial environments, about the impacts of the climate and how it changed and its effects on the ice and on the melts. And it's really a good experience for education.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think one of the things anyway that the EPSS program particularly does, our Earth Planetary Science program, is it involves a lot of field work, because you have to prep the students for field experience. And surprisingly, we found out that the students, probably this is the thing they love the most about our degree, the field work, and sometimes having to go to Europe, for example, for our summer field work. So because it's very difficult to do summer field work here in the UAE, it gets really hot. And so we tend to send our students to sometimes Spain, to Greece, Italy. And we found out that this is
terrible.
And so what the students really love that experience, because it enriches them so profoundly. It gives them a chance for cultural exchange. It increases that sort of resilience and robustness in having to deal with completely different new environment, new customs, and so forth. And so obviously Antarctica is the sort of the ultimate experience in that regard. Well, you're not necessarily having a cultural shock, but you are sort of getting of the boss level kind of challenges in terms of physical and logistical hardships.
I imagine it changes you to a degree. Like you go into an environment like that where it's so pure and so protected and so untouched, that you really, the impact of climate change must be astronomical, because you've seen the purity of it with your own eyes. It's different than reading it in a book or, or studying it in a classroom, to actually see.
Certainly. And I think the first thing that just struck me when I was once we were back in Cape Town is, why is it so noisy? Because we just got used to the fact that it was really quiet,
so
serene, and there's no car horns.
Nice.
Nothing.
Nice. Okay. I think my final question to both of you would be, what's next? What's the next adventure? What's next is there going to be another Antarctic expedition? And, what are we kind of hoping to get out of that?
Yeah, I think in terms of, this is just the beginning for the Polar Research Center, and there will be many more campaigns that we're going to undergo, because we're signing a bunch of agreements really with a lot of interested parties and countries. So the UAE and the EPP in general are quite active on that regard. So there will be other field campaigns, not necessarily by me, but other members of the Polar Research Center, potentially to Antarctica, but also to the Arctic, like Svalbard and so forth, and so on. So we'll see where it goes. But we're hoping that this was just the start of something that's going to be really productive in the coming years.
Do you think the UAE in the future will have its own station?
I think this is sort of one of the long-term goals for the UAE, and I think that's something they're going to go through that process. But you have to imagine this is obviously a very intense logistical challenge.
Of course.
Even having spoken with their Indian counterparts, they are discussing what they went through in order to build their own stations. I think this is not a decision that's going to be taken very quickly. We need to be very diligent. We need to think about it very very carefully in terms of the site that's going to be selected and so forth. But I'm pretty sure that the UAE and the EPP have very clear guidelines and very clear aspirations in terms of having a future UAE station.
Very cool. I look forward to maybe talking to you about it one day.
Yeah.
If it's within my lifetime, of course.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you both for being here today, sharing your adventures with us, speaking about your research. We really appreciate your time, and we very much look forward to future expeditions and news about your research.
Absolutely. It was our pleasure, and
Thank
it's
you.
always a pleasure being on the KU podcast.
Thank you, Mike. It's our
Thank
pleasure
you,
to meet you.
Omar. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed today's episode or you'd like to be a guest on KU Pulse, please shoot us a message or visit us at ku.ac.ae/KU Pulse.